We're still waiting for details about what exactly happened and what sparked the violence in Syria's Hama province there. But the UN's already confirmed heavy artillery was used. What response do you think we can expect from the international community to this now?
Well, let's not talk about the international community, because there ain't any such thing. What you have is a divided Security Council with Russia and China so far resisting attempts by the West to take Syria over. These attempts are continuing, and we are now seeing a pattern. You have a phenomenal amount of importance attached to how these events are reported in the media. I have seen evidence now from journalists in the field I trust, Charles Glass and others who've been there, who insist that the atrocities carried out by the Syrian National Council and their organization supporters are creating mayhem in some areas, and they're deliberately carrying out these atrocities so that they can be blamed onto the regime. The regime does its own things, we know that, but these people are by no means on the side of the angels as they pretend. And a journalist on the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung some weeks ago explained what had happened in the Hula massacre and was denounced. But we now have other reports coming from journalists. Charlie Skelton in The Guardian has written a very detailed text pointing out extremely ably as to who the people are, who we see on CNN, BBC, and who are promoted by the State Department and the British Foreign Office, who control these networks or influence them. Let's put it mildly. And these are people who are waiting to come to power. So the stakes are now very high. The West has unleashed these people. Saudi Arabia and Qatar, those beautiful examples of democracy, are arming people. The Turks are on side as far as the West is concerned, and they are wanting now a final push to get rid of this regime. I've described this, from Iraq onwards as a process we're witnessing is a new form of re-colonisation of these countries. We've seen it in Iraq. We saw a very clever propaganda operation mounted in Libya, a country now which is a mess, and the impact of that was in Africa.
Tariq, let's try and keep the focus. I know exactly what you're saying. I've taken everything you're saying there, but let's try and keep the focus on Syria. And also, as everything you are saying is happening, the UN discussing proposals on what it is going to do with Syria. Is it going to be sanctions? Is it going to be more monitoring? What can we expect from the UN then, do you think?
Well, I think what the Security Council can do, it can only do with the support of Russia and China. If they veto any one-sided sanctions, that would be positive. I mean, if we're going to have sanctions, why not impose armed sanctions now on these armed groups that are creating mayhem in that country? It is not only Assad. That has become very clear over the last few weeks. And one can't simply say that this is justified because of who they are fighting against. The Syrian National Council is the favored group of the Western countries. There are other oppositions on the ground in Syria, people I respect and trust who are not part of this outfit and who are equally concerned at what is going on. Many of the people who first rose against this regime in Syria have been sidelined. And we now have a very grim polarized situation in which the choices are limited. Either a Western-imposed regime composed of sundry Syrians who work for the Western intelligence agencies, let's be blunt about this, or the Assad regime. The people of Syria, it's clear, want neither. So the only way forward is negotiation, discussion, constitution, constituent assembly, and that it is now obvious that the West is not going to let happen because they are effectively backing the people who are opposed to any negotiations at all.
If the reports about these latest deaths are true, no matter which side is responsible for it, whoever did it, is the UN in any position at all to say these are the last deaths, to actually do something about it?
Well, I mean, as I pointed out, it's very difficult to see what the United Nations as a body can do. I mean, within the United Nations, you have the NATO countries who can do things whether or not they are part of the Security Council majority, or whether they've been vetoed or not vetoed.
Is NATO likely to go it alone, do you think, anytime soon?
Well, they will go it alone if the Russian government gives them the green light, which I hope they won't. I think it would be a bad precedent if NATO went in and took another country and changed the regime through outside force.
Thank you for your thoughts, Tariq. Tariq Ali, the author and Middle East expert, on the line from London.